Okay, so yeah, that is what basically a social network analysis is. So this is an analysis method that you can use for your study. Why did I wanted all of us here? Because all of you are educational technology students, so you are basically in my department, and I would like to highly suggest you to use this kind of method because most of the time in our line of research, we deal a lot with computers and education. We investigate how students learn using computers. We investigate how students learn using mobile apps, or we investigate how students learn using um, online learning, for example. So we have the connection between computers as well as education. So because of this, we usually have the data that we need for social network analysis, and I think it is it is a waste if we do not utilize and make use of this data to understand how students learn. Now, in our line of research, so we usually refers to journals such as Computers and Education. We always refers to journals such as Computer Supported Collaborative Learning. I hope you read this kind of journal because these journals are our journals in our line of research. So this is an example. I think this is quite old, which is 2017. But in this paper, they want to investigate how it's not students, how teachers participating in an online training program, and then how these participants who are school teachers um, construct knowledge while they are doing the activities together in the online training program. So what they did is very simple, and then they take all the online collaborative learning activities discussion script, and then they analyze who is talking the most, who is dominating the discussion, who is responding to the discussion, who is central to the discussion. So those are the things that they investigated, and mind you, this is what they have done in the year 2017. Imagine now we are in the year of 2022, and if we are still using very simple statistics, or like we stop our analysis at the point of t-tests, or like simple things. So I was thinking that we should make full use of another methods in understanding our research data. So that is what my point is. So this paper is in the year 2017. In 2022, I think papers, most research in educational technology, not only they carried out social network analysis, but then based on the graph that has been formed, they investigate is there any significant difference among these different social network graph. So they have done it, a little bit more advanced compared to what we usually see. So I hope if you go through the session today, you maybe want to consider to use the method for your data. But of course, this has to relate to your research objective, whether this is suitable for your research objective or not. Okay, and remember to consult your supervisors. I do not want, to make enemies among the supervisors here. Okay, so this is another example of paper. So they use social network analysis to study how collegial interactions can augment teacher learning from external professional development. So I think this paper is also quite old. I think this is in 2016. But they investigate how teachers learn from each other, and then they visualize that using social network analysis. Do I have another example? Yeah. This is the very first paper that I think I came across when I was using the social network analysis, which is in the year 2007. So in the year 2007, so people in Europe has been using social network analysis to investigate the patterns of interaction. So this paper, what they did is that they have students learning in a computer supported collaborative learning, and then they try to come up with the patterns of interaction, and then using the social network analysis. But I think that time they didn't use the software GIFI, which the software that we are going to learn today, but they use R programming, or I think they use UCNet for that purpose. So there are many software that you can use to come up with your social network analysis. And also you can use Node Excel. Node Excel is actually a plugin for Microsoft Excel. It used to be free when I was using it in 2015, and now they are no longer free. They are commercial software right now. So yes, this is in 2007. So this social network analysis has been used in our research area for so long. In fact, it is not even used in social network in educational technology only. It has been used in, for example, in the studies of construction and many other studies, especially social science studies. Okay, now this is an example of research question that if you think your research question is along this line, and then social network analysis is suitable for you. Okay, so if, for example, I think this research question I took from the papers. Okay, so the one that they have in that paper is that they wanted to know is interaction with colleagues who participated in sustained professional development related to changes in teachers' practices beyond the net effect of direct participation and professional development. Okay, this seems too complicated, but the thing is that they want to know when colleagues interact with each other. Remember, I told you just now, there is this research on online professional development program. So they wanted to see if once these colleagues interact with each other, does the knowledge form among them when they interact has an effect to their professional development, has an effect to the participation in further professional development. So maybe, for example, they wanted to see if I have been talking with a friend during this online course, and then the fact that I was interacting with my friend, it has affect me, and it has led me to continue to get involved in other professional development courses. So that is basically what they want to see. So they want to learn that using the social network analysis. And we also have, this is, for example, if you want to investigate students' participation in online learning, for example, you can see how dense is the participation. Usually we calculate the dense of participation based on frequency, right? Like, for example, how many how many dialogues being produced by the students, or how many times the students talk. So that is usually the way we calculate or we count participation. And we didn't have, a very systematic way of calculating the depth of participation. So using social network analysis, you can calculate how dense is the students' participation when they are interacting. And you can also measure this across how does it change over time. For example, during week 1, when you give certain intervention, the dense of participation is not that dense. And maybe during week 3 or during week 5, then you'll be able to see the graph, or the density of the students' participation has changes. So this social network analysis will help you to understand how rigorous the students' participation is. Okay, and you can also measure to what extent are members participating in the discourse, and how does this change over time. Maybe we want to see if we place students in a group work, for example, and then you want to see how certain students in that group is participating, to what extent these members are participating. Is there someone dominating the discussion? Is there someone being so quiet that they did not interact with anyone at all? So usually what we did is that we have to analyze that one by one. We have to go to that person and then have an investigation on that specific person. But using social network analysis, you're able to see the graph and directly see, okay, there's a node here that is not, connected to any other nodes. When the node is not connected to any other nodes, then that means that student, is not participating in the discourse. Okay, so this is some of the research question examples that I took from the papers. Okay,
And this is an example of the research findings. When I was talking about the graph just now, so when you analyze your data, this is an example of output that you're going to get. So you'll be able to see the nodes here, the circles. I'm going to no, okay. So we have here S08, S19, S09. These nodes, this circle is represented by student, and this line here, this is represented by their connection. For example, maybe we can say that maybe in that context of settings, we can say that S08 talks to S01, is connected to S01 through an email exchange, for example. They exchange an email together, for example. Or we can say that S16 here has a connection with S08 because S16 talked to S08 during an online discussion. So this is also possible. It depends on the context of your research, of course. Now, we have here the boxes here because I think the authors, they put in the boxes. It's just to illustrate who is the student facilitator in this network. So here we have circles. We have circles represented by person. So, and they name that person S08, S01, and so on. So this is how the students are interacting during module 6. So you can see, for example, we have closed loop in a way. There is no isolated nodes. If we have isolated nodes where we have one node that do not have any links or connection, then we can say that this is an isolated nodes. Okay, so this is an example of findings that you'll be able to get. This is also another example. I think this is generated by R programming. This is not by UCNet, I think. If you look at James here, so this James, apparently the only person he's talking to is Andrea. So he's not talking to anybody else in the group. So you can see how interaction and how dense the participation, students' participation in the online discussion forum. This is a research on collaborative learning of students in online discussion forum. So they analyze how the students has been interacting in the online discussion forum, and we can see how visually who they have been talking to. If you have a very thick line here, that means they frequently talk to each other. For example, we have Ava and Eric. We have slightly thicker lines compared to the rest of the lines. That means Ava and Eric has been talking to each other more frequent than Ava talking to Andrea, for example. So this is what it means by the density of the lines, by the size of the nodes. For example, Eric here has bigger circle compared to the rest. Why? Because we have a lot of lines coming in to Eric. That means we can say that Eric is the focal person in the discussion because we have a lot of people referring to Eric. We have directed lines here with the arrow. So Vahid arrow is going to Eric, Chloe's arrow is going to Eric, and many other lines are coming in to Eric. So, and that's what causes Eric's circle to be bigger. So these circles are called nodes in the social network analysis graph. So these circles are called nodes, and the lines here, the arrow here, is called link or linkages or edges. We can call them edges or we can call them ties. Okay, so these ties can be an arrow or it can be a simple one line. So I'm going to tell you later what are the differences between arrows as well as simple lines. Okay, so this is another example. You can also visualize how different groups here apparently sometimes within our learning interaction, although we did not group the students together, but apparently they have their own cliques. But we can, and these cliques can be visualized in social network analysis. If sometimes we didn't say that, Sarah, Monica, you have to be grouped together, sometimes they're not grouped together, but apparently they have people of their own interest that they have been interacting with. So we can detect these communities during the in the social network analysis graph as well. Okay, so this is apparently a communities that has been formed. So maybe they have similar interests that cause them to only talk to each other more compared to them talking to other communities. So we can also investigate these communities. We call them as modularity. Later on, you'll be able to see the number of modularity in the network. So that will give us indication how many communities exist in our, for example, in our students' learning environment. Okay, I have a lot of examples. Oh, okay, I have so many examples. But this is, for example, I was telling you about the changes in the network over 3 times. So maybe you can also want to capture during week 1, how did they interact? During week 2, how many did they interact? How did they interact? During week 3, how did they interact? If you see here, for example, Kang initially participated in discussion, but then during, the second time, Kang, Emily, and Anthony is not interacting, so it's not so dense, the participation, and then we have very dense participation at the end of the course. So we can also, not necessarily you come up with only one graph, you can also have 3 graphs, no problem. Okay, it depends on what you want to see. For example, if you want to see changes, then you might have to record that or analyze that over time. So this is another example. Okay, I have more research examples. Okay, up to this point, do I have question? I have question. What is your opinion on simple responses within the interaction, such as haha or Okay. Um, sometimes, okay, for social network analysis, we want to see how dense the participation is and not what they talk about. If you want to investigate what did they talk about, and I think that is not, we don't use social network, you're not able to explain that using social network analysis. Social network analysis is just to explain how dense they interact, but not what they talk about. So if you want to analyze about what they talk about, I think that falls under the quality of the discussion or the quality of their interaction. uh, that has to be used, for example, during content analysis. Then maybe it depends on your research objective. What do you want to measure? Do you want to count, for example, haha or as a sign of social presence, for example? Then you can count that in. But for the social network analysis, it deals with how dense or how frequent the interaction is. So that means if the students has very thick line, but the thick line is contributed by, the way they are saying haha or I think that is a sign of interaction as well. Okay, rather than you are being quiet. So I think it should be counted uh, in the network. Okay, I hope I answer your. Okay, all right. Do we have any other question? No? Okay. Boleh ke ni? Okay. Alright. So now, okay, the SNA tools. So there are many tools that you can use for to analyze your social network graph. But I'm using a very simple tool, which is GIFI, which I taught in my class. So you can download the software. We can also use many other tools. You have GIFI, you can use UCNet, programming. So some of these tools, for example, they cannot immediately generate the graph. Sometimes you have to take the data and then produce the graph somewhere else. But GIFI, I use GIFI because you can key in the data and then you can immediately get the graph. But of course, if you have a very complicated graph, it is suggested that you use, for example, our programming or UCNet for that purpose. But if you just want to, if your research objective is about, to just generally see the pattern, a very simple ones, and it is a very small part of your research objective, you can choose to use GIFI, okay, for that purpose. Now, so GIFI is a free tool. You can use, you can download this. I think the latest version is 0.93. So it is friendly for Mac users as well as Office. No, not Office. Apa tu? Windows users. So it is friendly for both, and you can generate a visualization after you have keyed in the data. So it is free. So I think you can search over the internet for the software. I don't know, should I give you maybe, all right, can I give you maybe, or should I just demonstrate to you? Hold on. I'm going to demonstrate to you where can you get and whether you get, so that you get the correct software. So hold on. Can use this one. So you can just search GIFI, and then, so this is the software, and then you can you see my screen? Okay, so this is the software, so you can straight away download that software. There are so many tutorials on how to use GIFI, so you can do that. But I'm going to show you simply how you can start working on or exploring GIFI. Okay, and then okay. Can you share? Can you see my? Okay. So so in GIFI, you'll be able to produce two graphs. There are two types of graph, which is directed graph and undirected graph. Undirected graph is, as I told you just now, we have nodes and we have lines. The graph is circles and then lines. The circle is represented by, can be represented by a person, a building, or a specific thing. And the lines is called edges, and that edges represents the relationship that a node has with each other. You can have, for example, this node, the provider one is the person named CP, and the second circle here, provider two, is a book. So node one is a person. The second node here is a thing, which is a book. So the relationship, the lines, maybe is there's a relationship between city and book. Is because city reads a book one time today, okay, or city reads one book, and then we have another circle here. For example, we can have provider here as Ali. So Ali also reads a book. So Ali will have a line as well to another node here called book. So in your social network graph, you can have combination of person, people, things, and whatever it is. Okay, and they are represented by nodes. And the lines is represented by the relationship that they have with another node. Now, if simply said, for example, just now, as I said, Siti reads a book. So this kind of relationship is called as undirected graph. Or you are a friend with someone. So Ali is a friend with Siti on Facebook. So the relationship is, the line represents Facebook relationship, Facebook friendship. So that is undirected graph. Okay, but if we have, for example, if we have an example, Ali talks to Siti. Okay, Ali talks to Siti, and Siti talks to another person, which is who is John, for example.
Ali talks to Siti, and Siti talks to John. So there is that kind of communication, and because John can talk back to Siti, so that kind of communication, you have to use directed graph. Okay, or if you want to illustrate a Twitter relationship, who is following who? So that one you have to use directed graph, because you can have, one way and then another way connection. If we have this relationship just now about Siti or John reading a book, and then book cannot reach John, you see. So because you cannot have another relationship another way. So that one you have to use undirected graph. If your relationship, if your edges is about someone talking to someone, and that someone can talk back to that someone, then you use directed graph. Okay, up to this point, is this clear? The attendance will be given later when I feel like giving. Okay, all right. So up to this point, is this okay? No question? Okay, so you have to identify what kind of graph that you want to generate first, because later that you will have to translate what it means by the lines and the connection and the circle. So you have to understand first what kind of graph that you want to generate. Okay, so this is an explanation just now about the nodes and edges. Nodes can be an individual, a country, a thing, a section, a book, so an entity. Okay, edges is the connection between entities. It can be a relation, someone connected to something. So for example, we see just now Facebook friendship. We can see someone's hobby, for example, someone's reading habit, or things like that. So for edges, for nodes, you can have big and small nodes. So big nodes indicate something else, and smaller nodes indicate something else. So an explanation behind the size of the nodes. For edges, there's also an explanation between thick edges as well as thin edges. So different size of the edges or different size of the lines means something else. Okay, so it is not all right. Here, this is an example. Okay, this is, I think, a very simple example. We can prepare this kind of data in Microsoft Excel. So you can just have a very simple empty table, and then you label that as you need to have two tabs. You can label that as ID, label, and attribute, and then you prepare another Excel file, and then you put the column, source, and target. I'm going to demonstrate later on. Okay, so for example, ID, for the notes, I have John, Carla, Simon, Celine, Winston, and Diana. So, and the attribute, maybe I want to have one means male and two means female. So I have another attributes here that I can assign to my notes. Okay, and then I have edges. So these edges means, for example, the source, which is one. One is labeled as John, and the target is two. Two is labeled by Carla. So this means source 1, which is John, has a connection with Carla, which is 2. One line. Then we have another line, 1, 3. So this 1 means John also has connection with 3. Number 3, who is Simon. So we have here 1, 3. We also have 1, 4. So John also talks to Celine. For example, Celine is number 4. And then we also have John, 1, talks to Diana, which is number 6. So you list all of this connection, all of this interaction in your Microsoft Excel, and then you will be able to generate this kind of simple social network analysis, a simple social network graph. So you see here John. So there is a line from John to Simon.
because John talks to Simon, there is 1, 3 here. John talks to Carla, which is 1, 2 here. Okay, so there's a line here. And then Diana here has the biggest node. The size of the node is bigger because Diana is number 6. We have a lot of connection coming into Diana. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's why Diana has the biggest nodes because she has the most arrows coming in to Diana. Okay, so this is what it means by bigger nodes and the size of the nodes, the size of the circles. Okay, so this will be a simple data preparation if you want. Okay, and based on the graph later on, what can you do? What can you analyze? So then you tell me, ask me, okay, based on this graph, what should I explain? What kind of statistical measures that can be, can be used to explain this graph? So you can elaborate this graph based on the degree of the graph, the weighted degree, the degree distribution, how many in degree distribution, how many out degree distribution, the diameter of the graph, and the closeness centrality and betweenness centrality. There are many other graph measures that can use, including modularity, for example, but you can explore more. But what I usually use is degree and degree distribution. So degree is about calculating the number of links that has a node. For example, if you have in degree distribution means that for that specific node, how many lines is coming in, which is in degree. Out degree means for John, for example, how many times John reach out to others. We have arrows going up. For Diana, it is arrows coming in. So this can tell us a lot of people refers to Diana in this network. But John, we can say that he seems like clueless, that he has to ask everybody for information. He asks Carla, John asks Celine, John talks to Diana, and John talks to Simon. So this is, maybe you can explain. It also depends on the context of your research. So that is called as in degree and out degree. So you can explain that. They will produce a value for you, and then you can explain that. What does it mean in your research context? So it will also calculate the diameter, which is the longest distance between two network nodes. This is, diameter means they will give you a value. For example, between Celine, here for example, Celine is not talking to John directly. Celine is talking to John directly because John talks to Celine. Celine is not talking to Simon directly. There is no line connecting Simon and Celine. But if you look at the graph, they are connected to each other through John and Carla. So if you see here, Simon, John, Carla. So Celine is connected to Simon through John and Carla, but they are not directly connected. So this is what it means by diameter, the longest distance between two network nodes. They are not directly connected to each other, but they will give you value. For example, for someone further, very far from each other. I hope you get the idea. Okay, it's the longest distance between two network nodes. Okay, they don't talk to each other. They are not directly connected to each other, but they are connected through several other nodes. And they will calculate. They will give you the value. What is the longest distance? Okay. Closeness centrality measures the average distance between a node and all the other nodes. I think this is quite self-explanatory. So they will give you the average between, for example, John, distance between John and Simon, John and Diana. So they will calculate the average. On average, what is the value of their closeness? Okay, because they are not directly connected to each other, but on average, are they close? Can we consider them as close or not in this network? So that is what closeness centrality. You can also have betweenness centrality. This measures the level at which any given node serves as a bridge connecting to other nodes. So here, for example, in this network, who is actually bridging everyone together? So usually that person, usually if we have an online discussion and we have teacher in the network talking in that online discussion, that teacher will have the highest between the centrality value, because the teacher is putting everyone together, because everyone asks the teacher, or and everyone asks the confirmation from the teacher, and the teacher will be the one who is talking to everyone. So usually if you have a teacher in the network, the between the centrality for the teacher will be very high. So this is where we want to investigate who is dominant in that network. So here, for example, we can say, I assume it will be Diana, but we never know. So they will come up with the values, and then we'll be able to see who has the highest between the centrality value. Okay, all right. So we can also have density, modularity, eigenvector centrality, and other related components. I'm not going to explain this one. You might want to explore on your own which one is more relevant to you. Okay. And this is what we have in the GIFI. We can have the opening file. We can import files from Excel. We can produce the layout. You can produce the rank, the graph measures just now, as I said, in degree, out degree, between the centrality, and all. So we can export also the graph in the form of PDF, I think, as well as JPEG as image. Okay, we can adjust the labels and all. Okay, so because our session is for 1 hour, so I don't think we can have time to install that together. But I hope you can install that if you want. So you can just Google the software GIFI. Okay, so this will be the appearance of the software. Okay, so when you open the software, so you will see, no, you will not see this one. I'm going to stop sharing and share again. Do we have questions so far? No? This is okay? Ada soalan? Soalan pula. Do we have question? Okay. Now, so this is what you're going to see when you open the software GIFI. So this is, I'm using Mac, so but the appearance will be more or less similar. Okay. So you will have here overview, we have data lab, we have preview. This data lab is where you can add your data manually, or you can also directly import. You can also import spreadsheet as well. Okay, but I would suggest you to import spreadsheet. But if you want to import spreadsheet later on, you will have to prepare two files, which is notes file.csv and edges file.csv. Okay, now let's look at data sample. Okay, so let's use Les Miserables data. So who knows about Les Miserables? Do you know that this is a film? A theater. A theater. It's not a film, I think. It's a theater. It's a theater about people, I don't know in which era, but it is basically a theater. And there are actors and actress in that, and then they analyze who is dominating the, when they were filming, who is actually dominating the entire story. So let's have a mix here. So once you have import that, then you can have mix. Then you see here number of nodes. There are 77 nodes. There are 254 lines connecting the nodes. Okay, you open that. So this is what you see. Okay, if you look at the data laboratory, so these are the label of the nodes. Okay, these are the label of the nodes, and then these are the IDs. So this is an example of the data. So you can export this one, or you can add notes if you want from the data. So I'm using the sample here because later on, if you want to have the sample, you can use, you can explore this sample in the GIFI software. So you can add note here, you can add edges if you want. Okay, so that is in the data laboratory. So if you go to overview, here we can have these notes. So here we do not have the label yet. Okay, and then here we have the information about the graph just now. It is a directed graph. If you zoom in, you have arrows. If it is a directed graph, then you will have arrows here. And then you have some thick arrows and some small arrows. And you see here, there's local community in within this whole big nodes, okay? But we do not know how many communities are there, okay? So here is the filter if you want to have for example, later on, once you have calculated the statistic and then you want to filter, very small edges, you want to eliminate small edges, you can do that in filter. So if you go to statistics, so this is where you run your statistic. For example, if you want to know the modularity. Modularity is when you know how many small communities that we have in the bigger network. So you can click on run. You can click on the average degree, network diameter, and the graph density. So here, for example, run here. So this is the degree distribution, and we can have in degree and out degree distribution. So you can analyze this one. I'm going to talk about this later. Okay, so but this is basically the graph. Okay, this is the value, the average degree. And then we can have, if we want to see the graph density, we can run that. Okay, this is the result of the graph density. Usually it ranges from 0 to 1. 1 is very dense, so 0.04 is not that dense. Okay, and then you can calculate the modularity. You can click here. Okay, then they will run how many number of communities here. We have 6. Okay, we have 6 communities here. Okay, so I think it is indicated by the colors. So you can choose to color the community based on colors. Okay, and many other components. Okay, so now when you go to data laboratory again, you will be able to see here the value has been filled in because we have clicked on the run statistic just now. Okay, so we have in degree, out degree, and then the degree, and then we have the modularity class. So once we click on run statistics, so the data will also be displayed here. Okay, so then we can choose the appearance here, for example. Hold on. Okay, we can choose. Usually once we have the final product, we want to visualize better, so there are a lot of layout that we can choose from. So for example, I'd like to use Frosterman Rango, and then I click on run. So this help me, they will expand that network so that we can clearly see. Okay, so then we can stop. Or if you prefer to look at things differently, force atlas, you can click on run. So this one will attract all the nodes together. You can also use Yifanhu. I also like to use Yifanhu sometimes. Okay, here they will show you which community is somehow distracted towards disconnecting, is about to disconnect. So we can visualize it such a way as well, because again, this depends on what you want from your research objective. Okay, so you visualize that accordingly. Okay, so here this is the label. Okay, if you want to label the nodes, so you can make it smaller, the label. Okay, you can make it smaller. Okay, so then you can have the labels. So if I click this one, then I have no labels. Okay, Hold on. Okay. Okay, once you are done, then you can go to preview. Okay, then you can go to preview and then you can click on refresh. So here you can choose whether you want the curve to be straight. You can choose the class to be straight, the line to be straight, the circle to be curved, and you can refresh that one. Okay, so this is how you can number the size of the font that you want to appear. Okay, and yes. Okay, and then you can export that into as PNG or PDF. Okay. Um, that's basically the overall of it. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my slide. Okay, so actually, if you carried out your research in Facebook, you also have this function NetVis, but I think they recently stopped this service because it is somehow like illegal to crowdsource information from social media using NetVis. But in my time, I think in 2015, I was fortunate that, for example, if we set up a Facebook group and then we are able to, automatically download all the connections, and it is in the form of Excel format that you can immediately transfer that to DeFi. So you can input data manually using spreadsheet software or data sets from MySQL databases as well, or you can get that from NetBase if you want. Okay. So yeah, I'm not going to show you detail, but I'm going to share with you slides. You can definitely try. Okay, you can input data manually in DeFi using the file new project and data laboratory just now. You can add notes, you can add edges, and there are tutorial videos that you can I put in here. You can see. And then okay, let's try this one. Okay. If you want to input data manually using Microsoft Excel, you have to save your Microsoft Excel file using the format .csv. Okay, let's try. File, new. Okay, so the first, as I said just now, you have if you want to use Excel, you have to use two files. File number one is for file notes. File number two is for file edges. So here, if for notes, let's create the notes first. The notes first, and then this ID, we can have label. We can have ID, label, and attribute just now. Attribute. Okay, let's say ID1, label John, attribute male, for example. Maybe one, my attribute is about gender. Okay, number two, you have Carla. You can, this is
Dr. Baha, are you, Dr.
girl.
Dia, are you showing the Excel or?
Sorry. Oh, I'm showing Microsoft Point. Is it Microsoft PowerPoint? Yeah. No, hold on. Okay, sorry. Okay, this is the Excel. Okay. Like for example, as I said just now, you have to produce two Excel files. So one Excel file for notes, one Excel file for edges. So here, for example, you can have ID. This file is for notes, for example. You can have ID, label, and attribute. As I said just now. So you can put all the names and the labels here. Ali, for example, the attribute is male. Diana, the attribute is female, and so on. So let's save this one. Save as comma separated values file. So this is notes. Okay.
So save that one as CSV. Okay, and then save that. So I save that in downloads. Okay, and I have to create another file for edges. So new. Okay, I have just now the notes. Okay, now you have to have the title source and target. Let's say the source is John, which is John. Maybe John, which is 1, interact with Ali, that is 3. You also have John interacting with Diana, that is 4. We also have John interacting with Carla, that is 2. We have Carla interacting with Ali, that is 3. Maybe they interact this interaction, sorry. And maybe they interact more frequently, so we have a lot of here. And then we have 4 interact with 1. Okay, so 1 to 4 is different than 4 to 1. So maybe this is also tick. Okay, then we save this one as CSV as well. Save as edges. Okay, you can name it anything you like as long as you know that it is edges. So we save that one, so we can close the file. Okay. So you open your D5. I can have new project. So I don't save. I have new project, for example. And then I want to open. No, not open. You go to Data Lab, and then you import spreadsheet. First, you have to import your notes. I'm going to do this one. So this is how it will appear. Okay. I'm going to use my previous ones. So notes. So the format is comma separator, import as notes table, and then click on next, and then you click finish. Yeah, let's say it is a mixed type because, and I have 8 notes, and then okay. So I have the notes. Now I have to import the edges. Edges. I have edges. Okay. Make sure this is import as edges and notes, not as notes, because you are importing edges. And then you click on next, and then you click on finish. Append to existing workspace. Let's look at the. So this is the overview of my data just now. If I label this one, then I have here Celine, John, and iPad, and Winston, and all. Okay. So here, and I have computer. So between computer and Simon, this is the line that is, I think, directed. Okay. So and then I can choose to color my notes. I can apply that one, and then you can see the thick edges and the not so thick edges. You can choose to have layout if you want. Okay, so here this is the layout. Okay, I need to zoom this one. Okay, so this is how you can you can also color them according to density and all. Okay, so you can explore this more later on. I want to change here somehow. If I want to color my graph according to gender, then I can apply that one. So they will color my notes according to gender. So 1 is male, for example, 2 is female, and then the green one is null, which is it has no gender, obviously. Okay. And I can color that according to company if I want. If I have so many attributes, you can have other than gender, you can have like company that they belong to. You can have their affiliation, for example. No, so you can have many other attributes, not specifically gender. Okay. And then once you are satisfied, and then you can further refine this graph, whether you want it to be a default curve, for example. Can refresh that. Where is my graph? Is it because it's running? Sorry, overview. No, it has stopped. Somehow it is not appearing. Okay. It is supposed to be here. I'm not sure why. Because I'm using 0.92. The recent one is 0.93. I suggest, I assume that's the reason why it is not appearing. But okay, but if it does appear, then you should be able to see just now the graph. Oh, it is not showing. Okay, and then you can save that, export that as SVG slash PDF. Okay, so overview. Okay, but you can also take photos of this if you want. So here there's a camera, small camera down here. You can immediately save that, the screenshot as PNG, and then save that in your drive. Okay, so don't forget, you can also run the average degree, okay, the network diameter, okay, the modularity if you want, and then take the value. So the value can be available in the data laboratory, or you can take directly the value from the graph just now, okay, from here. So when you run here, so you can also, they will calculate how many in degree distribution and how many out degree distribution among the nodes. Okay. Okay, it's 11. All right. So I'm going to share a little bit more on reporting. Now, once you have that graph, and then as I said just now, there are many things that you can report on. You can report on the degree distribution, you can report on the modularity, you can report on the between centrality, who is dominating the discussion or who is dominating the network. So you can do that, okay? Or between centrality and all. Okay, so you just click on run on the statistic column at the very right hand side. Okay, now, so what happened in this is an example of reporting that I get from a paper. So they report on the betweenness value and the degree, which is in degree and out degree, but they didn't say it as in degree and out degree, because in degree in a network means how many connection coming in. So that also indicated by received messages. And if we have out degree, that is how many connections going out. So it is actually send messages. So this is how they present the data. So they report on the number of in degree and out degree, which is receive message and send messages. This is among students interacting with their supervisor. So they also have the betweenness value, and then this is their learning performance. So they just also put that away. So this is student pair. This is among student pair. Okay. There are two students exchanging messages and interacting with each other. Okay, so you can report on that, and this is the layout. As I said just now, layout will help you to modify how it will appear in your report, because sometimes if you want to highlight which network is about to disconnect from other network, from the bigger network, then maybe a force atlas is more suitable. But if you want to have an overall look about how they are connected to each other, maybe Yifan Hu and Fruiterman Rengo is a better layout. So you can learn about how these other layouts can be useful for your research, for your data representation. Okay, so you can choose that. Okay, so here tadi I think I demonstrate to you just now how can you demonstrate applying the layout. You just click on the layout and then choose the layout that you want, and then you can save the image. Okay, so this is just the types of layout, and usually if you want um, more expansion, then you can use you want them, you want the nodes to go further away from each other, you can use Force Atlas or Proteman Goal, or you can use Ivanhoe if you want the nodes, if you want to show to the audience or to the readers how they are further from each other. No, it's not how they are further to each other. They have you want the nodes to not, dense into the center, so that you want to see more clear. And then you can use for settlers or first and go, because they will expand the network. Okay, so different layout has different purpose. If you want expansion, if you want contraction, if you want overlap, then it depends on what you want to show. Okay, so in your reporting, as I said just now, you have to choose what you want to include. Do you want to include, do you want to talk about, is your research objective is about understanding? For example, I have a student doing a research on types of leadership profile. So this research, she uses social network analysis because she wants to identify, she wants to understand when students are interacting with each other, what kind of leadership profile that exists. So certain leadership profile, according to leadership profile, there are person who likes to dominate discussion. So using the network graph, they are able to, this research is able to explain who has the biggest node, who has the biggest connection, because this is related to how this person present themselves as a leader in a group. So in that way, I think that in this kind of research, we explain about the betweener centrality, because we want to know who has the highest betweener centrality value. If that person has the highest betweener centrality value, that means that person is dominating the network. So that is the kind of statistic that you want to highlight. But if you just want to see how students are interacting with certain material, or how do they interact with each other, how frequent do they interact, who is not participating in the discussion, you can just use the in degree and out degree statistics. So because that, from that value, you'll be able to see, you'll be able to explain who has been interacting the most, who has been participating the most from the graph. Okay? So remember to relate the graph presentation with the interaction context, because this is social network analysis is usually used to explain interaction, to explain participation, to explain people engagement among people engagement with resources. So try to base on that when you want to report your findings. Okay, I think that's all from me. Of course, I was not able to um, explain in detail step by step, because I was given 1 hour. But if you have further questions, you can of course you can reach out to me. And I think I have my student here. I have Nigel here. He sent me this morning a very wonderful graph generated by R. I'm not sure if he's still here. So you can also ask my students around, and if you need assistance. And I think many of our friends here also has been using social network analysis for their analysis. The main thing that you have to bear in mind is that make sure this analysis can help you to explain your research objective. Then you use. Do not simply use the analysis just for the sake of you want to use this analysis. Okay, so I think thank you very much. I'm going to paste the attendance. And meanwhile, do I have any question? Do we have question? So this is the registration link. Okay. No question? Okay. I will share the recording as well as the slide later on. I think in the WhatsApp group. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a nice day. Assalamualaikum.